On James Carter's desk, there was one photograph, an old picture taken with his bomb disposal unit colleagues in Afghanistan. His TSA colleagues had seen this photo but didn't understand its significance. James was simply known as a former soldier. But today, the experience captured in that photograph would come to light and save a plane full of people. Because some things are never forgotten. I wonder where you're watching this story from today. Don't forget to write which city you're watching from in the comments. Whether you're from the sunny airports of Miami or the bustling terminals of Chicago, you've probably experienced impatience while going through security checks before. But none of you would have thought that behind those checks lies experience that saves lives. This isn't just a bomb disposal story, it's also a story about recovering from PTSD, second chances, and what true heroism really means. James Michael Carter was born in 1965 in Cheyenne, a small town in Wyoming. His father was a farm worker, his mother was a school teacher. Little James grew up among the tools and equipment his father used on the farm every morning. He learned to use his hands, be patient, and pay attention to details from a very early age. During high school, James was very fond of mathematics, particularly excelling in physics and chemistry. His teachers suggested he study engineering. But when he graduated in 1984, the family couldn't afford university tuition. James's only option was to join the military. Joining the Army at 18, James quickly caught attention during basic training. His intelligence and meticulousness stood out more than his physical strength. His superiors thought he would be ideal for bomb disposal training. This training would determine both the best and worst years of James's life. The 6 months he spent at the bomb disposal school at Fort Belvoir completely changed James. This wasn't just a place where technical knowledge was learned. It was where psychological endurance, working under stress, and facing death were taught. You'll face death every day, his instructor had said, but your job is to save people from death. Can you handle this responsibility? James could handle it. In fact, this responsibility gave him purpose. The 20 years from 1985 to 2005 were James's years as a bomb disposal specialist. His first assignments were in Germany, clearing old ammunition from abandoned military facilities during the Cold War era. This was relatively safe work, but it was perfect training for James. When the Gulf War began in 1991, James volunteered. In Kuwait, he was tasked with clearing mines and traps left by the Iraqi army. This was his first time working under real combat conditions. The 8 months in the Gulf taught James many things, not just technical skills, but he also saw the real face of war. One day, while disposing of bombs placed under a school building, he learned that the building was full of students. From that day forward, he understood that his job wasn't just a military duty, but a humanitarian responsibility. In 1999, he was sent to Kosovo. Here he cleared mines targeting civilians. Once he removed 23 mines from an elderly man's garden. When James finished his work, the old man thanked him with tears in his eyes. "Now my grandchildren can play safely," he had said. That day, James understood what true heroism meant. When the September 11 attacks occurred in 2001, James was 36 years old and one of the most experienced bomb disposal specialists. He volunteered to be sent to Afghanistan. The 3 years from 2002 to 2005 were the most difficult period of James's career. IEDs placed by the Taliban and Al-Qaeda were killing American soldiers every day. James's mission was to find and neutralize these bombs. During this period, James's team disposed of 800. In each one, a mistake meant death. Not just for James, but for the soldiers around him. This pressure gradually began to affect James's mental health. The most traumatic event occurred while disposing of bombs placed under a school building in Kabul. James's closest friend Mike Rodriguez was working beside him. The bomb exploded unexpectedly. Mike died instantly while James was severely injured. James spent 3 months in the hospital. The physical wounds healed, but the psychological wounds never closed. Mike's death deeply shook James. Now, when disposing of bombs, he thought about Mike every second. In 2005, James ended his 20-year military career. He had been diagnosed with PTSD, and was told he could no longer serve active duty. The transition from military to civilian life was very difficult for James. When he returned to his small town in Wyoming, he felt completely lost. For 20 years, his life had revolved around life and death matters. Now, he was trying to find a normal job and live a normal life. The first few years went very badly. James experienced alcohol problems and avoided social relationships. He had nightmares at night and suffered from depression during the day. He received psychological support from the Veterans Hospital, but recovery was very slow. In 2008, he experienced a turning point. Thanks to other veterans he met in a PTSD support group, he began to find meaning in his life again. During this period, he met Linda Thompson. Linda was a social service specialist who worked with veterans. Linda approached James with patience. She tried to understand his past and listen to his traumas. For the first time, James could really open up to someone. "You're not just a veteran who experienced trauma," Linda had said. "You're a hero who saved thousands of people's lives. Don't forget that." James and Linda married, and with Linda's support, James gradually began to reintegrate into society. In 2012, James applied to the TSA. His bomb disposal experience and security background made him an ideal candidate. He began working at security checkpoints at Denver International Airport. Initially, this job seemed very routine to James. Thousands of passengers, thousands of bags, routine checks every day. After the intensity in Afghanistan, this monotony was also comfort. But James soon understood the importance of TSA work. Millions of passengers flew in America's skies every day. Ensuring their safety was as important as disposing of bombs. James's approach was different from other TSA agents. He wasn't just doing routine checks. He was evaluating every bag and every passenger as a potential threat. This approach sometimes caused delays, but James never acted hastily. "Security doesn't happen with haste," he would tell his colleagues. "The cost of one mistake can be very heavy." Denver International Airport was one of America's busiest airports. Working at Terminal 3, James processed an average of 2,000–3,000 passenger controls daily. Most passengers were impatient, in a hurry, and annoyed by check delays. James's work style was different from other TSA agents. He would stop at every suspicious object seen on the X-ray machine and take it for manual inspection if necessary. This approach sometimes angered passengers and sometimes created long queues. "This guy is too slow," passengers would complain. "Let's go to another checkpoint." James would hear these criticisms but didn't care. He only focused on doing his job in the best way possible. His colleagues had also gotten used to James's meticulousness over time. Among the TSA team, James was known by the nickname Bomb Expert. This nickname contained both respect and a bit of joking. Because James could spot potential dangers even in the most innocent-looking objects. On James's desk stood that old photograph from Afghanistan. In the photo were 6 soldiers from the bomb disposal unit. Except for James, none of them were still alive. This photograph was both a memory and a responsibility reminder for James. His colleagues would be curious about this photo, but James wouldn't go into details. "Old friends," he would simply say. No one knew the depth of what James had experienced in Afghanistan. November 15, 2019, Friday morning, James had started work at 6 a.m. as usual. The morning shift was usually busy with business travelers. Everyone was in a hurry. Everyone was trying not to miss their flight. Around 9:30 a.m., a man about 35 years old approached James's checkpoint. The man looked like a normal businessman. Suit, tie, leather briefcase. There was nothing suspicious about his appearance in terms of profile. The man's name was Ahmed Hassan. According to his passport, he was a Jordanian citizen legally residing in America. He said he was going on a business trip to Chicago. Plane ticket, hotel reservation, everything was in order. Ahmed Hassan was polite and calm. He gave reasonable answers to James's question. His English was fluent, his behavior was normal. Any TSA agent would have evaluated this man as a routine passenger. But something began to seem strange to James. The first thing that caught his attention was Ahmed's hand. The man had those special hands that bomb disposal specialists knew. Very meticulous, very clean, but with very slight burn marks on his fingertips. These marks were signs of frequent contact with chemical substances. The second thing that caught his attention was the organization in Ahmed's bag. The bag looked like a normal business bag, but the items inside were placed very systematically. This type of organization was a habit of people with military training. The third and most important sign was Ahmed's attitude toward the X-ray machine. Most passengers behave relaxed when their bag goes through X-ray. Ahmed, however, showed very slight tension. Ordinary people wouldn't notice this, but James's experienced eye didn't miss it. When James passed Ahmed's bag through the X-ray machine, he saw normal electronic devices, laptop, phone, charger, cables. No dangerous substances were visible, but the alarm bells in James had started ringing. 20 years of bomb disposal experience had taught James that explosive materials couldn't be detected just by appearance. The most complex bombs were hidden inside the most innocent objects. James took Ahmed's bag for manual inspection. This was a routine procedure, but James examined each object very carefully. The laptop was a normal business laptop, but James noticed that the laptop's weight was slightly more than normal. This difference was very small, maybe 200–300 grams. An ordinary TSA agent wouldn't notice this. The phone and chargers also looked normal, but James realized that the laptop's cables weren't original. The cables were aftermarket products and contained different wires than normal. The most suspicious object was a small perfume bottle that Ahmed carried with him. The bottle looked normal and smelled like real perfume when sniffed, but James noticed that the perfume's color and consistency were slightly different from standard perfumes. The situation James faced was very sensitive. The evidence in his hands showed no concrete threat. All items appeared technically legal and safe, but James's instincts told him something else. According to TSA rules, James should report his suspicions, but at the same time he knew the consequences of giving a false alarm. Wrongly putting an innocent passenger under suspicion could be problematic for both that person and the TSA. James paused for a few seconds to make his decision. At that moment his days in Afghanistan came to mind. How many times had trusting his instincts saved lives? How many times had things that seemed normal actually turned out to be deadly traps? James made his decision. He took Ahmed's belongings for advanced inspection and called his supervisor. "Tom, there's a suspicious situation at Terminal 3, he said on the phone. Detailed examination is needed." His supervisor, Tom Rodriguez, had learned to trust James. James's suspicions were usually well-founded. "What kind of suspicions, James?" "No concrete evidence yet, but my 20 years of experience tells me something is wrong." Following Tom Rodriguez's call, the airport security team took Ahmed Hassan to a separate room. This was explained as a routine security check, but James had now also brought in the FBI and bomb disposal team. Ahmed stated that he was surprised by this situation but was ready to cooperate. "If it's necessary for security, I'm happy to help," he said. This cooperative attitude would normally clear him, but James observed a calculated attitude even in Ahmed's cooperation. The bomb disposal team began examining Ahmed's belongings very thoroughly. Initial tests were negative. No explosive materials were detected. Laptop, phone, chargers all looked normal. But James insisted. "Do a chemical analysis of the perfume bottle," he said, "and open the laptop." These requests were beyond normal TSA procedures, but James's background and experience made the team take his requests seriously. Chemical analysis results came 2 hours later. The substance in the perfume bottle was indeed perfume, but it contained very small amounts of nitric acid traces. These traces were so minimal, they couldn't be detected in standard tests. The examination inside the laptop revealed more shocking results. In the laptop's battery section, alongside normal battery cells, there were 6 special cells. These cells looked like normal battery cells, but they contained C4 explosive inside. The discovery of explosive in the laptop completely changed the situation. The FBI's terrorism department got involved, and Ahmed Hassan was officially arrested. This was no longer a routine security check, but a terrorism investigation. Ahmed Hassan's interrogation revealed shocking truths. The man was a member of a terrorist cell connected to ISIS. His plan was to detonate the explosives in the laptop while flying to Chicago when the plane was in the air. The amount of explosive was sufficient to completely destroy the aircraft. United Airlines Flight 247 would have 200 passengers on board. If the plan had succeeded, 200 innocent people would have died. The most shocking detail was the sophistication of the bomb. This wasn't a homemade amateur explosive. It was a professionally prepared, sophisticated weapon designed to bypass X-ray and metal detector. FBI experts stated that preparing such a bomb required both chemical knowledge and military training. When Ahmed Hassan's background was examined, it was revealed that he had received terrorist training in Pakistan. If TSA agent Carter hadn't noticed this bomb, said FBI Director Christopher Wray, we would have experienced one of the biggest aviation terrorism attacks in American history. Ahmed Hassan's capture wasn't just the apprehension of one person. The FBI began examining Ahmed's phone records, email history, and social media accounts. These examinations revealed that Ahmed was part of a larger terrorist network. A cell of 12 people in America, England, and France was planning simultaneous attacks. If Ahmed's plan had succeeded, other cell members would have launched their own operations. A total of 5 aircraft were targeted. This was the biggest terrorist plan against America since the FBI, Interpol, and European security forces cooperated to capture the other 11 suspects within 48 hours. The operation went down in history as Silent Thunder. James's careful observation had saved not just 200 people, but potentially more than 1,000 people. When news of Ahmed Hassan's capture leaked the media, there was great shock throughout America. The fact that a major terrorist attack had been prevented thanks to a TSA agent's attention once again emphasized the importance of security personnel. James Carter's name was initially kept secret, but as details of the story emerged, his bomb disposal specialist background and extraordinary attention caught the media's attention. CNN conducted an exclusive interview with James. "How did you know?" the journalist asked. James's answer was simple and modest. "For 20 years, my life was built around working with explosive materials. This experience allowed me to notice certain details." "What did you feel at that moment?" "Fear," James said honestly. "If I was wrong, I would have accused an innocent man. But if I was right and didn't do anything and allowed the attack to happen, I would never forgive myself." The TSA gave James Carter the organization's highest honor award. This award was only the 3rd time it had been given in TSA history. President Donald Trump invited James to the White House and gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. During the ceremony, Trump said, "James Carter is one of the silent guardians of America's security. Thanks to heroes like him, our country remains safe." But the most meaningful honor for James came from his veteran friends. Former bomb disposal specialists he had worked with in Afghanistan came together to honor James. "Mike Rodriguez would have watched you with pride," said former teammate Bill Thompson. Mike was his closest friend who had died in Afghanistan. These words deeply affected James. James's story also gave hope to veterans struggling with PTSD. James hadn't completely left his traumas behind. He still had nightmares at night and had difficulties in stressful situations, but his job at TSA had given him a new purpose. He was no longer just struggling with his past. He was working to protect the future. "PTSD never completely goes away," he said at a veterans meeting. "But you can learn to live with it, and you can use your past experiences to protect others." James's story began to be told as a case study in PTSD treatment centers. It showed that it was possible to find meaning in life again after trauma. Despite the major media attention, James continued his modest life. He continued his job at TSA, continued working at the same checkpoint. Now passengers recognized him and showed respect. "This man saved our lives," they would whisper among themselves. James wasn't bothered by this attention, but he didn't want it to be exaggerated too much. "I just did my job," he would constantly say. TSA management offered James promotions and other positions, but James preferred field work. "This is my place," he said, "where I can directly help people." TSA started special training programs to benefit from James's experience. James began teaching advanced threat detection courses to new TSA agents. In these courses, James taught intuitive approach rather than technical knowledge. "Use machines but trust human instincts," he would say. "Experience can't replace any technology." James's training methods were incorporated into the standard curriculum at the TSA Academy. Now all TSA agents were learning observation techniques called the Carter method. Thanks to these trainings, similar threats across the country began to be detected early. Between 2020 and 2023, TSA agents detected a total of 23 suspicious explosive materials. Most of these materials were found thanks to the observation techniques James taught. James's success caused positive changes not only in his professional life, but also in his personal life. His wife Linda observed how James's self-confidence increased. "He doesn't feel worthless anymore," Linda said in an interview. "For years he blamed himself because of PTSD. Now he understands that his past experiences are valuable." James and Linda started the adoption process in 20. They adopted 8-year-old Sarah. Sarah's father was a veteran who died in Iraq. "Sarah taught me how to be a father," James said. "Now I'm not just protecting the past, I'm protecting the future too." James would tell Sarah that her father was a hero. "Your father also protected people like me," he would say. "When you grow up, you can help people too." James's success influenced airport security procedures not only in America, but worldwide. Airports in Europe, Asia, and other continents began to adapt methods called the Carter Protocol. This protocol included intuitive observation techniques with technology, identification of suspicious behavior patterns, cross-training programs, with cooperation of personnel from different backgrounds. The International Air Transport Association appointed James as a consultant. He now played a role in developing airport security standards worldwide. "Security is universal," James said at an IOTA conference. "Threats know no borders. Our defense shouldn't either." James's success emphasized the importance of technology-human balance in airport security. The most advanced X-ray machines and metal detectors couldn't detect Ahmed Hassan's bomb, but an experienced person's observation had exceeded technology. With this lesson, TSA developed new approaches, but final decision with humans, digitalizing veteran personnel experiences, developing technology that supports human intuition, hybrid security models. "Technology helps us, but it can't replace us," said TSA Director David Pekoski. James Carter's story proves this. James's approach began to be applied in sectors other than aviation. Border security, customs officers detect smuggling operations using James's observation techniques. Cybersecurity, IT specialists evaluate abnormal network traffic patterns with the intuitive approach James taught. Corporate security, private companies use similar methods for employee behavior analysis. Educational security, school security guards adapt these techniques to detect signs of violence early. James's story also changed security education curriculum. Now, not only technical knowledge but also experience-based learning was emphasized. Universities began offering applied experience courses in security departments. In these courses, veterans and experienced professionals conducted real case analysis. James regularly became a guest speaker at universities. "There are things you can't learn from books," he would tell students. "Experience is the best teacher." James's intuitive success also attracted the attention of psychology researchers. Stanford University began studying James's decision-making processes. Research showed perception. Decisions made under stress can be strengthened with experience. Intuitive evaluation can complement analytical thinking. James's brain developed differently thanks to years of survival struggle, said research leader Dr. Sarah Chen. This is an example of positive transformation of trauma. James's success also increased international security cooperation. NATO countries started similar veteran integration programs. Israel developed special programs to employ experienced soldiers in airport security. Germany assigned veteran police officers to border security. England cooperated with MI5 to train veteran analysts. Security is a global responsibility, said NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. James Carter's experience shows us the power of cooperation. James's story also influenced security technology companies. New generation security systems began to be designed to support human intuition. Lockheed Martin developed an intuitive threat detection system. This system uses experienced operators' observation patterns while analyzing X-ray images. Raytheon is working on AI-supported behavioral analysis systems. These systems adapt the observation criteria James used to digital environment. Technology should support human experience, said Raytheon CEO Greg Hayes. James Carter's success is proof of this principle. James's story also began to take place in popular culture. Hollywood made an offer to make his story into a movie. James was initially reluctant, but accepted, thinking the story could contribute to PTSD awareness. The film, called The Silent Guardian, was released in 2020. Famous actor Mark Wahlberg played the role. The film both achieved commercial success and drew attention to veteran issues. James donated 50% of the film proceeds to veteran aid organizations. This money is more important than the story, he said. James's story inspired the new generation of security professionals. Young people cited James as an example when applying to TSA and other security institutions. Sarah, James's adopted daughter, said she wanted to be like her father when she grew up. In 2023, 11-year-old Sarah had told James's story for a school project. "My dad isn't a superhero," Sarah had said in her class, "but he's a real hero. He protects people, and when I grow up, I'll be like him too." As of 2024, James Carter still works at Denver Airport. At 59 years old, James has started making retirement plans, but isn't ready to leave his job yet. "There's still a lot to learn," says James. "New threats, new challenges emerge every day. I'll continue working as long as my experience is useful." TSA appointed James to a lifetime achievement position. This position gives him as much work flexibility as he wants and allows him to share his experience with young agents. James says about his experience, "20 years ago, when I lost Mike in Afghanistan, I thought my life was over. While struggling with PTSD, I thought I could never be useful to anyone again. But life taught me this. Your past experiences, no matter how painful, can be used to help others. Mike's death destroyed me, but that experience helped me save 200 people's lives. Every morning when I come to work, I look at Mike's photo. I say, today I'll make a difference for someone too. This is my debt to Mike." James Carter's story changed modern security understanding. Now security is seen not just as a matter of technology and procedures, but also as a matter of human experience and intuition. Elements of his legacy: superiority of the human factor, scientific foundation of intuitive evaluation, increase in international security cooperation. James's story teaches this. Every person has hidden powers in their past experiences. Traumas, when processed correctly, can transform into the power to help others. Everyone has their own unique superpower, says James. "Mine is noticing bombs. What could yours be?" This question led thousands of people to discover their own talents. Veteran associations started Discover Your Superpower program. In these programs, veterans learn how they can transform their own experiences into contributions to society. Today, that old Afghanistan photograph still sits on James Carter's desk, but now there are new photos beside it. Wedding photo with Linda, Sarah's school photo, group photo taken with the TSA team. "The past is important," says James, "but the future is more important. I'm now looking forward, not backward." Every day, thousands of passengers pass through James's checkpoint. Most don't know who he is, but James isn't bothered by this. He just does his job and safely reunites people with their loved ones. At Terminal 3 of Denver International Airport, next to the checkpoint where James Carter works, a small plaque hangs. At this point, lives have been saved through experience and attention. In honor of TSA agent James Carter, James continues to quietly check passengers who don't notice this plaque. Every X-ray image, every bag check, every passenger interaction is a potential life-saving operation. Because James Carter knows that real heroes work silently, They don't expect applause, don't try to become famous. They just do what they need to do at the right time in the right way. And sometimes, this silent attention saves 200 people's lives. James's story continues. Every day, every shift, every check. Because security never ends, and neither does heroism. Have you ever wondered while passing through airport security checks, what might be in the background of the person at that checkpoint? Maybe they too have experiences that save your life. And if this story taught you something, don't forget to subscribe, because we'll continue telling the stories of silent heroes. Every day we share real security stories.